Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Obviously, as you guys can see on the screen, we have another deck profile, and more specifically, an updated deck profile for probably one of my favorite decks of all time, especially as of recently, and that is Black Purple Gear 5 Luffy. Obviously released in OP11, he was definitely overshadowed by his brethren that came out in the same set. And thanks to the new structure decks that came out recently, they breathed some new life into this deck. Unfortunately, it's not the new life that I would prefer, but I can definitely tell you that this deck is a force to be fucking reckoned with. It trounces a lot of the meta at the moment, and I'm going to show you how I personally play it, how the curve should go, and, well, maybe even some saucy combos. To give some newbies some context as to what this deck actually does, so he's one of the few leaders in the game that actually does something on either player's turns, believe it or not, as much as it doesn't explicitly say. So it says, done times 1, all of your characters gain +1 cost. This effect will always be applying regardless of whose turn it is. So as long as my leader has one done, that 1 cost becomes a 2 cost, 2 costs becomes a 3 cost, and so on and so forth. Luffy's actual effect is on my turn and once per turn, when 2 or more Don is returned back to the deck at any given time from the field, I can ramp up to 1 Don as active and 1 Don as rested. So this means you can put back 1 instance of 2 and get the 2 back, or you can put back 1 instance of 1 and then another instance of 1 to get the 2 back at a later point. This is what the deck revolves around, as you will see in just a moment with what the cards actually do. You want to be able to put back multiple Don in a turn to be able to get it back with leader effects and through other means. Before I tell you about the deck and show you how I've been playing it, I would like to preface going into this that I am not playing 6 cost secret rare EBO2 Luffy. I am very much aware that that card is absolutely amazing in this deck, and I have played with it on the sim when it decides to work. However, the actual price of the card is astronomical. It is extremely hard for me to warrant buying it, and it's also extremely hard for me to even get it because a lot of people are playing it in this deck and they are still playing it in EBO2 Luffy. However, that being said, this deck still revolves around putting multiple Don back without it, and it still works just as well. So, let me show you what we are working with. To start with, a lot of the 4-ups, we are playing 4 copies of Trafalgar Law. Obviously, you guys know what this card does. It's been in Purple Luffy for the longest time. There is no difference as to why it's played here, as to why it is there. Obviously, it searches pretty much anything in the deck. The only thing it can't search in this deck is when you see you fight against pirates, which you will see eventually, and obviously Gum Gum Giant, which, thank fuck that card's not searchable in this deck. Then we are on to another familiar face. We have 4 copies of 3-drop Zoro. I still personally play 4 copies of this card because despite it being a brick, obviously as you can see it has no counter on it, you can very much filter out your hand with cards like Gum Gum Giant and Frankie. This card is still incredibly good. Obviously it's a 3/5 attacker that ramps you 1, and in my opinion I still feel like you should be playing 4 of it. However, I can understand why people are playing 3 of it. We are on to the first new face of this entire list, and we are playing 4 copies of the 3-drop 4K Robin, which is obviously also a 2K. This card is essentially another copy or another 4 copies of Zoro, and well, even though a lot of the time you don't attack with it, or at least in my personal experience you don't particularly attack with it, you still play her for the effect to essentially ramp 3 Don. You still get the 2K, and what's not to love about it, it's ramp and it's a 2K. And well, back to the familiar faces, we are on 4 copies of Frankie. I still think this card is absolutely amazing for when it comes to filtering out your hand, especially going second, and well, this card's incredible going second as a whole, and it's one of the other reasons why I personally don't play it, and a lot of people seem to not play Bon Clay other than the price. Still on the familiar faces, we are on 4 copies of Usahachi. This card is obviously still an amazing card, and unfortunately it's a little bit expensive at the moment, but as I'm recording this, they announced that PRB2 would have copies of Usahachi in it, so hip hip hooray, this card is not going to be expensive anymore. And then we are also on 4 copies of 7-drop Sanji. This is one of the few cards I personally replace the 6-drop Luffy with. A lot of the time I don't particularly miss being able to do it 1 turn early, but it's not the end of the world. This card has counter. You can rest a chump blocker in the case of Blackbeard, Bonnie, Green Yellow Law, obviously that deck's kind of around, and especially Zoro. This card's really good into Zoro. And then probably the best card in the entire deck, 4 copies of 6-drop Beer Luffy. This card solely saves the deck. Obviously, if you guys happen to not know what it does for whatever fucking reason, on play or when attacking, Don -2 if your leader is multicolored and your opponent has 5 or more Don on their field. Straw Hat Crew type leaders gain a base power of 7,000 until the end of your opponent's next end phase. This card is astra-fucking-nomical. It is absolutely amazing, and it's really good, and one of the few reasons why this deck actually trounces Snake Man a lot more times than not, because obviously Snake Man doesn't have removal other than attacking into this. They'd have to red rock it, or they'd have to bounce it with 9-drop Mihawk, which not a lot of lists are playing at the moment. And onto some of the smaller Straw Hats that are not for us. We are still playing 3 copies of 5-drop Sanji. I still think this card is absolutely amazing when it comes to the times you don't particularly have the Luffy, or you have cards or decks as a whole that are particularly centrifugal around one specific card, or one card that very much gets in your way. More specifically, one that I can think of off the top of my head is the 3-drop Searcher Chopper. Obviously for Zoro and for Chopper, that card is incredibly good. And another new face is 2 copies of the new ST26 Chopper. This card is actually really good going like first and eventual late game, because if you don't know what it does, on play, Don -2, you can rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. You can get rid of a chump blocker if you need to, or you can rest an opponent's Don. So you see that Gum Gum Giant your opponent has set up, say goodbye to it. It's not gonna help you in the fucking slightest. And also, this is a blocker as well, so you get to rest a Don. You also get to fuck up Bonnie, I just realized. You can rest a Don, rest a chump blocker. You can also have a blocker. Then we are on to some of the high drops. There's not particularly a lot of them in this deck. There we are on 2 copies of 9-drop Luffy. I honestly, personally would prefer to play the 3rd one, but sometimes I feel like this card itself is just a brick, and well, I personally think 2 is the perfect number. Then obviously we are on to one of the main reasons you would play this deck. 2 copies of 10-cost Luffy. This card becomes even better to play within this version of the deck, because you are able to store out for time with using the 6-drop Beer Luffy, as well as just shit out chump blockers, obviously left, right and center. Lightning is amazing to help stall for this card, and there is actually a 10 Don combo that you can do that I will show you a little bit later. On to the events of the deck. We are on obviously 4 copies of Gum Gum Giant. I absolutely love this card, but I also absolutely loathe it. I genuinely believe that this card should have been banned alongside Raigo, Jinbei, and a couple of others, because this card single-handedly does carry purple Straw Hat decks, especially purple Luffy, in my personal experience. Robin also needs to use this card to keep bricks out of its hand, or keep it from bricking as a whole. But obviously, it's a really good card, and you do need it. We are on 2 copies of Gum Gum Lightning as the final 2 Straw Hat cards. I absolutely adore this card in this deck, and I personally think you should be at least playing 2 of it if you can. There are also some cards that I definitely think you should consider in this deck alongside it when it comes to the engine card. So anything that's Straw Hats or Hearts Pirates in this deck, you can consider the 2-cost 2k Beppo if you really want to. More copies of Lightning. Gamma Knife is incredibly good into 8-drop Kid and some bigger idiots if you can't get rid of them. That's all the Straw Hats for the deck. Let's move on to the honorary Straw Hats. There's not a lot of them in, well, it is a Straw Hat deck after all. We are on the 4 copies of Black Maria. I think this card is just one of the best purple cards to ever exist. Honestly, it is one of these cards that time and time again I have always loved to play. I play 4 copies of it in Reiju. I play 4 copies of it in this. It is definitely one of my more favorite cards in this deck, and well, it is the main reason why you can do the 10 Don, well, 7 to 10 Don combo with the 10 cost Luffy, of which I've said I will show in just a moment. Then for the final 3 cards of the deck, we are on 3 copies of When You You Fight Against Pirates. This card is also really good in the sense of, if you don't happen to have lore, this card's really good. Even though it searches you only the top 3, you can actually search for lore in this deck, because obviously you can look at the top 3, add any Straw Hat Kids Pirates or Hearts Pirates. This also has a trigger effect that you can just activate to search whenever the fuck you please. And well, in my opinion, this is one of the really surprising cards that I actually started to like more and more as the time went on. Some other cards to think of when it comes to the honorary Straw Hat portion of the deck. 9-cost Kaido, I really like that card still. I still think it's a really good card for closing out games if you happen to have a Black Maria on the field as well. But unfortunately, it is a searchable brick, and you can't particularly do a lot about it. The new OP11 8-cost Katakuri blocker. That card is also absolutely amazing in this deck. I have personally not been able to try it because I don't own any copies of it and I've not really wanted to test it all that much, but I've heard from a lot of people that the card is absolutely amazing. Let me show you the actual proper curve for this deck. So it is a little different as to what your curve might be if it's going first or if it's going second. Just to make sure that I cover all the bases for you guys, if you want to pick this deck up yourself, is I will show you both. This is entirely my opinion. So going first, a lot of the time you want to try and keep yourself relatively on the done like odd curve. So obviously 1, 3, in some instances 5. So in this instance 1, 3, 6, 7, 9, and 10. So in most instances, you on your 1 Don turn, you will obviously want to play the Law and then search out. A lot of the time you want to search out a Zoro. So obviously you are able to get your 3/5 attacker on your next turn and hopefully get your opponent to get rid of it. Obviously, if you happen to find Black Maria or Robin in this case, it's also not the end of the world because obviously they essentially do the exact same thing. Then on your 3 Don turn, a lot of the time you are, well, not a lot of the time, all of the time, you are setting up for your Zoro, which will then put the 2 back to then put 1 active. Then obviously, because you put 2 or more Don back, you can use leader ability to get 1 active and get 1 rested. So you are essentially on your 4 Don turn already. So a lot of the time you are able to play this on your next turn, depending on if you're playing against purple or not. If we are going to our next turn, we are now on 6. If we are going against Snake Man, we will literally just tap it all out for the Luffy. So we essentially get the leader effect that we have always wanted. Obviously, put the 2 back, our leader becomes a base 7k, and then we can get the 2 Don back that we had just used for it. This is obviously something you do have to keep in mind when you do and how you use it, because it is one of these cards that can get you to minus a little too much. Then on your 7, or on pretty much any of your turns, let's say you're on 8, you are now able to pretty much go wherever you need. Obviously, in this case, we have the Sanji, so we can tap all 7, or not all 7, or tap 7 of the 8 to play it, to then put 1 back, to then be able to rest something and swing. Then you can obviously swing with the Luffy, put 2 back to make it a 7, then get them back with the leader, so that will put you on the same 7, or put you on 7, so then you can be put on 9 on your next turn. A lot of the time, you want to make sure that you see these cards at least once. If you see them twice, absolutely great success, but it's not the end of the world if you happen to not see them. So that is the going first curve. Let me show you the going second curve. The going second curve is a little bit different to how the first turn or the going first curve is, but you don't need to worry about how drastically different it's going to be. Obviously, as you can tell, there are still 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that are pretty much exactly the same as to what you would want on the going first curve. So say, for example, we are going second. We will obviously get the 2 Don we need, and we will obviously draw for turn. We can still do the Law play for whatever reason you need. So this time around, you can either search for Robin, Zoro, obviously you can't search for Black Maria, but if you happen to draw off your draw for turn, it's always quite nice. Or, in my case, you will search for the Frankie, because then once your 4 Don turn comes around, you can just obviously get the 2 Don, draw for turn. Then you play the Frankie, which then puts 2 Don back, cycles out a brick from your hand for whatever reason. Obviously, he's a blocker, you get to draw 2 cards. You also do get to trigger leader ability going from there. So obviously, this is where things start to deviate a little bit. Obviously, in your 6 Don turn, you do still have access to the 5-drop Sanji if you happen to need it, but a lot of the time you are still sticking with the 6-cost Beer Luffy to make sure your leader is bolstered for whatever reason. However, a lot of the time you are still trying to make sure you can play this card on the even curve if you happen to need it. This card does sometimes come up on the odd curve, but it's definitely not there in one of these things. It's one of the cards that people do cut down on when they do play the EBO2 Luffy. So in some instances, we can attach 1 Don to lead and play the Sanji for the full 6 Don, and well, obviously eventually get to pop a card, swing a couple times, and then go from there. On your 7 Don turn, or actually your 8 Don turn, sorry, I lied to you, this is where things start to get a little bit frisky. If you still have your Sanji on board, you can obviously tap the 6 for the Beer Luffy, put the 2 back, get a base 7k leader, and still get the 2 back. You essentially don't lose anything out of it when it comes to actually playing it. So you still have a 7k leader swing, you have a 7k swing with the Sanji as well. And a lot of instances, you do have maybe 1 or 2 up for a Gum Gum Giant. So obviously, on your 10 Don turn, you can either play the 10 drop Luffy, but in a lot of instances, you are just still playing the 9 drop Luffy to make sure you can still get the Don back and the 7k leader. Those are the going first and second curves. Let me show you the Spicy Gear 5 combo. To show off this Spicy Gear 5 combo for you, that obviously this deck does use it very, very well, you are required to have 2 cards. You are required to obviously have the Gear 510 cost that allows you to take the additional turn, and obviously a copy of Black Maria. So let's say, for example, this is our turn. We've swung with pretty much everything, including leader. What we can do is we can tap the full 10 and play the Gear 5 Luffy. We put everything to the bottom of the deck and we minus our 10 Don. Now this is where things start to get fun. If you've not used leader effect already, you can activate it to get 1 active and 1 rested. You are then able to use the Gear 5 effect to gain another active. Then if you take the additional turn, you are then immediately up to 5. Of what you can do then is tap 3 to play the Black Maria. Black Maria then allows you to get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Don you have remaining, and boom, just like that, you are back at 10. You're back there pretty much already. You have a 7k swing to deal with blockers if they happen to have one, and you have a 12k swing to close out the game. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all from me. If you guys loved this deck profile as much as I loved playing it and making it, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below if you happen to want something that is very much like this. If you happen to have anything that you might want me to cover, as well as just some general conversation backwards and forwards. I say this every time, keep it civil and have some fun. That's going to be all from me. Thank you ever so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. And stay safe.